Okay, so picture this. You are sitting in the sweltering heat of the Amazon basin.
Oh, yeah, just completely surrounded by the jungle.
Exactly. And a local indigenous guide raises this small V-shaped piece of hollowed-out bone right to their face.
Like a little pipe. Yeah.
Right. They place one end in their mouth, the other in their nostril, and then with this sudden, really sharp exhale, they just blast a dark, earthy powder directly into their own sinus cavity.
Which is an incredibly intense thing to
Oh,
witness.
totally. Because instantaneously, their eyes just start watering profusely.
Yeah, their whole nervous system basically jolts.
Exactly. And within moments, their body might actually initiate a pretty violent, visceral purge.
Right, which, to an outside observer looks
It
alarming.
looks terrifying. Like it looks like a punishment or maybe a reaction to a poison.
But it's actually not at all.
Right. It's this profound ancient ritual of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the truly mind-bending part of this whole thing for you to wrap your head around.
Yeah, this is the wild part.
The core ingredient, like the main thing driving this sacred experience, is the exact same plant that Western society has commodified into one of our most um, stigmatized and regulated consumer products,
Tobacco.
tobacco. It's just wild.
It really is a massive paradigm shift. I mean, it requires us to look at a substance that, public health campaigns have spent decades fighting.
Right, like 40 years of anti-smoking ads.
Exactly. And we have to try to understand how an entire culture perceives it not as a carcinogen, but as an actual cure.
Which is our mission for you on today's Deep Dive. We are journeying into this crazy dichotomy.
Yeah, exploring the ancient practice of consuming powdered plant medicine through the nose.
And looking at how indigenous cultures cultivate this really powerful, respectful relationship with plant allies.
And, how those practices are kind of colliding with our modern world.
We've got an amazing stack of sources for you today. We're pulling from Stanley Krippner's cataloging work, healing states,
Yes.
spiritual healing, and shamanism.
Which really gives us that foundational anthropological framework.
Yeah, it sets the stage perfectly.
Yeah.
But the absolute star of our deep dive today is The Modern Shamanic Guide to Hape by Lorna Liana.
Such a fantastic guide.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautifully augmented by the artistic insights of Ginzer Chenti Flores.
Yeah, this text is essentially going to help us decode the mechanics, the history, and just the deep respect required to understand this medicine.
So to even begin grasping this, you kind of have to completely dismantle your modern associations with the word tobacco.
You really do. Because when someone says tobacco, your immediate mental image is like a pack of mass-produced cigarettes from the corner store.
Right, the stuff in the plastic wrapper.
Exactly. But the indigenous tribes of the Amazon, like the Hunikun, the Irwanawa, and the Apurnum, they are working with an entirely different botanical entity.
It's not the same plant at all.
No, they utilize Nicotiana rubistica, which is locally known as mapacho. Yeah, whereas the commercial tobacco you find globally is Nicotiana tabacum.
And chemically speaking, if you look at the raw data on this mapacho, it seems like it should be incredibly dangerous.
Oh, on paper it looks terrifying.
Because the sources say Nicotiana rustica contains up to 9 times more nicotine than standard commercial tobacco.
9 times. Yeah.
I look at a number like that, and my first thought is, how does a massive dose like that not just severely poison you?
Right, it's a huge spike.
I mean, if a conventional cigarette gives you a buzz, 9 times that amount blasted into the highly vascular tissue of your sinuses, you'd think that would induce a heart attack.
That is a totally logical assumption. But what's fascinating here is that it really comes down to the mechanism of delivery and something called the biochemical entourage effect.
The entourage. Okay, break that down for us.
So when you smoke a commercial cigarette, you are taking in isolated nicotine alongside thousands of synthetic combustion byproducts.
Tar, carbon monoxide, all the factory additive.
Exactly. It's this localized chronic microdosing of a synthesized product. And that leads to physical dependency.
Right.
But mapacho, in the form of this snuff, which by the way is called rape, pronounced ha-pe, it's administered acutely and infrequently.
So it's not a 20-day habit.
Far from it. Furthermore, it's never used in isolation. The mapacho is blended with the ashes of sacred trees like the sunu tree and a bunch of other medicinal plants.
Okay, so it's a whole blend.
Yes, and those tree ashes are highly alkaline, which completely changes how your mucous membranes absorb the active alkaloids.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of like comparing a highly synthesized, isolated pharmaceutical painkiller to consuming a complex botanical orchestra.
That's a perfect analogy.
Like, the nicotine might be the loudest instrument in the room, but its effects are being modulated and buffered by the chemical compounds of the tree ashes.
Precisely, because that massive influx of nicotine binds rapidly to the receptors in the brain, right?
Yeah.
Physiologically, this creates an extreme sudden spike in alertness and cognitive focus.
Which sounds intense.
It is. But because of that botanical buffering you just mentioned, it doesn't result in toxic shock. Instead, it triggers a profound parasympathetic rebound.
Meaning, the body swings the other way.
Exactly. After the initial jolt, your nervous system forces a deep, grounding state of relaxation.
Wow.
It's this specific neurological roller coaster that indigenous cultures have utilized for millennia. They use it to induce spiritual grounding, predict weather patterns, and prepare the mind for deeper spiritual work.
That is incredible. But, the history of how this practice reached the rest of the world, that's where the story takes a pretty tragic turn.
Yeah, it really does.
Because the sources point out that in 1577, there was a European doctor and botanist named Francisco Hernandez de Boncalo.
Right, he observed the indigenous people using it.
Yeah, and he basically brought herbal snuff back to Europe and initially pitched it as a headache treatment.
A medical novelty.
Exactly. But within a century or two, inhaling snuff had totally devolved into this fashionable recreational trend for the European aristocracy.
It really is the ultimate example of Western reductionism.
Completely.
I mean, we encountered a deeply sacred practice, extracted the physical substance, and entirely discarded the spirit and the ritual context.
We just wanted the buzz.
Right. Indigenous cultures approach mapacho as a master plant teacher. They engage with it intentionally, asking it for guidance.
And the Western commodification just stripped all of that relationship away.
Exactly. We mass-produced the crop for daily mindless consumption and turned a tool for spiritual elevation into just an addictive coping mechanism.
We separated the chemistry from the reference.
We really did.
And that separation really comes into focus when you look at how true rapé is actually created in the Amazon. Because you cannot replicate this in a factory.
No, not at all.
The source material outlines the process of making the medicine, which is known as the fitio. And honestly, it sounds like a grueling alchemical undertaking.
Oh, it is intense labor.
Yeah. The shaman of the tribe, the page, isn't just tossing some leaves into a blender.
Right.
They are often working under a really strict dietary regimen, sometimes fasting or isolating themselves completely.
Yeah, it's a very disciplined state.
And then they manually pound, sun-dry, toast, and sift the plant matter through fine cloth over and over again. The source says this can take weeks of continuous, exhausting manual labor.
Weeks, and the specific botanical components are just vast and incredibly nuanced.
How so?
Well, the sources note that the physical part of the plant you use drastically alters the medicine. So the root bark of a specific jungle tree might yield a very grounding, physically heavy sensation.
Okay.
But then the leaves or the seeds of that exact same tree might be used to induce visions or maybe counteract respiratory illnesses.
Wow, from the same tree.
Yeah. There are thousands of potential recipes, and a lot of them are closely guarded secrets passed down through tribal lineages.
I have to admit, though, my modern empirical brain struggles with one specific aspect of this preparation, which the sources emphasize that during the fadio, the shaman is often in a deep trance state, right? Singing specific continuous chants called icaros while pounding the leaves.
Yes, the icaros are vital to the process.
Right, but here's where it gets really interesting to me. From a strict biochemical standpoint, does the trance actually matter?
Ah, I see what you're asking.
Like, if the chemical makeup, the alkaloids, the plant matter, the alkaline ashes, is what causes the physical reaction in the sinus cavity, doesn't the powder function the exact same way regardless of what songs were sung over it?
Well, that tension you're feeling right now is the exact friction between the Western biomedical model and the indigenous biopsychosocial worldview.
Okay, yeah.
From a strictly materialist viewpoint, sure, you might argue the active alkaloids dictate the physiological response.
All right, it's just chemistry.
But indigenous science does not compartmentalize the physical from the energetic. To them, creating rapé is not following a Betty Crocker recipe.
Ah, right.
It is an active, ongoing apprenticeship with the plant spirits.
So it's less like manufacturing a drug and more like raising a child, like the environment, the emotional state of the community, the energy of the caregiver. All of that shapes the final outcome.
That is a beautiful way to frame it, yes. The indigenous perspective dictates that the energy of the shaman, the vibration of the chants, and the intent of the community actually weave the healing power of the forest into the physical matrix of the powder.
Wow.
If you approach it merely as a chemical compound to be extracted and analyzed, you are completely missing the totality of the medicine.
The intentionality behind its creation is considered the primary active ingredient.
Exactly.
Well, if the creation of this powder is that intensive and that revered, then the application of it must demand an equal level of respect.
Oh, absolutely.
And the sources are incredibly specific about the mechanics of how you actually consume rapé. First and foremost, for anyone listening, you do not pull out a rolled-up bill or a plastic straw and snort it off a table.
Never. Doing so is a profound cultural violation.
It just mimics recreational drug use.
Right. Snorting it like that completely desecrates the ritual context. Furthermore, the text gives a very practical warning. Consuming a brown or gray powder through a makeshift straw in a public setting is highly likely to result in law enforcement mistaking your sacred ritual for illicit drug use.
Yeah, that's not going to look great in public.
Not at all.
So, to administer it properly, the tradition relies on two specific instruments, usually crafted from bamboo or hollowed bone.
The tepi and the karip?
Exactly. The first is the tepi. That's the longer, slightly curved pipe designed for two people. One person loads the medicine into the pipe, places one end in their mouth, the other in the recipient's nostril, and blows.
Right.
And the second instrument is the karip, which is a smaller V-shaped pipe that lets you blow the medicine directly into your own nostril.
And let me tell you, the physical sensation of receiving that blast of powder is immediate and overwhelming.
I can only imagine.
The sinuses are lined with highly sensitive mucous membranes. When that dry, potent powder hits that tissue, your eyes will instantly begin to stream with tears.
Just instant.
Instantly. Your nose will run aggressively. The body's immediate reaction is to flush the area, which results in heavy coughing and the expulsion of excess mucus and bacteria.
And reading through the physiological reactions in the guide, it seems like the body isn't just flushing the sinuses, it's flushing the entire system.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on the blend of the rapé and the size of the dose, the user might experience what is known as the limpieza,
The cleansing.
the cleansing. And this isn't just a runny nose. We're talking about intense sweating, potential projectile vomiting, or a sudden urgent evacuation of the bowels.
Which is another paradigm we have to critically reframe.
Because nobody wants to throw up.
Right. In modern Western culture, vomiting is pathologized.
Yeah.
It's seen as a symptom of illness, like a sign that something is terribly wrong.
Yeah, you think you've been poisoned.
But in shamanic context, the limpieza is the medicine working perfectly. Yes. That sudden spike in alkaloids stimulates the vagus nerve, which connects the brain directly to the digestive tract. It triggers rapid gastric emptying to expel stagnant physical and energetic toxicity.
Wow.
So you are not getting sick, you are actively getting well.
I picture it like a physical and mental hard reboot for your nervous system.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Like, think about a computer that has been running for months without shutting down. The cache is full, the background processes are eating up the RAM, the fan is screaming, the whole system is sluggish.
And prone to crashing. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can't just open another program to fix it. You have to pull the plug, let the motherboard power down, and force a total reboot to flush all the junk data.
That's exactly it. That visceral purge is the body dropping all its cache tension at once.
That is wild. And that mechanism of action is why the practical tips in Lorna Liana's guide are so vital.
Preparation is absolutely key because the physical effects are so consuming.
Right, like the guide explicitly advises you to drink your water before you receive the medicine.
Yes, very important.
If you try to drink water immediately afterward, it will wash the residual powder down your throat, and the water will taste intensely of earthy tobacco ash.
Which almost always triggers further nausea.
Yeah, you don't want that. The guide also provides this brilliant physiological trick for receiving the blast from a tepi.
The throat lock.
Yes. You know that distinct muscular contraction you do in the back of your throat right before you dive underwater in a swimming pool?
Yeah, you instinctively close off your airway.
Right, so water doesn't rush into your lungs. You have to mimic that exact contraction when the powder is blown into your nose.
It seals the nasal passage from the throat.
Ensuring the powder coats the sinus tissue instead of flying straight down your esophagus and making you choke.
That physical containment is essential. However, the mechanics of using a tepi, where another person is actively blowing the medicine into you, that introduces a layer of complexity that goes way beyond just the physical powder.
Oh, for sure. because it initiates a deeply intimate energetic exchange.
It really does.
I mean, if I am blowing through a pipe into your face, my breath is the delivery mechanism. And breath isn't just air.
No, in almost every ancient tradition, breath is synonymous with spirit, with prana, with life force.
So whoever is holding the other end of that pipe
Hmm.
is literally injecting their vital energy directly into your nervous system.
And that realization leads to one of the most critical warnings in the source material. Because this is a shamanic tool, the energetic state of the person administering the repe is just as important as the medicine itself.
That makes total sense.
The text is unambiguous about this. You should never accept repe from a stranger, someone struggling with heavy addiction, or someone whose energy simply feels unbalanced or heavy to you.
Because you take all that on.
Exactly. If their energetic field is chaotic, they are transferring that chaos directly into your open, vulnerable state.
The text actually highlights this danger with a rather alarming anecdote.
Oh, the festival story.
Yeah, this anonymous individual was attending a conscious music festival. They had consumed MDMA, a synthetic compound that floods the brain with serotonin.
A very different vibe.
Right. And later in the evening, an acquaintance offered them rope. And treating it casually, they just accepted.
Which was a huge mistake.
The result was a catastrophic internal clash. The grounding, heavy plant spirit of the mapacho entirely overpowered the synthetic high. They became intensely dizzy, violently nauseated, and experienced a severe energetic crash.
It perfectly illustrates the concept of biological and spiritual contraindications. Mapacho is an ancient grounding earth medicine.
It demands respect.
It demands a quiet space, connection to the natural world, and clear intention. Attempting to layer it on top of a synthetic party environment just reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of the plant's nature.
It acts as an energetic grounding rod.
Yes. If you are flying high on synthetics, it will pull you back to earth, and often violently.
So let's put you, the listener, in a hypothetical scenario here. Let's say you're at a spiritual retreat, or perhaps an ayahuasca ceremony. The environment is appropriate,
Okay.
but someone you barely know approaches you with a tepi and offers to administer the medicine. Your intuition is whispering that something feels off, but the social pressure of a communal spiritual circle is heavy. Do you just suppress your hesitation to be polite?
This is where ancient practice meets modern boundary setting. The answer is an unequivocal no.
Good.
In any shamanic or spiritual framework, the consumption of medicine must be rooted entirely in free will and mutual consent. Prioritizing social politeness over the sanctity of your energetic body is a modern affliction.
Right, we're taught to just smile and say sure.
Exactly. But if you feel hesitant, that is your somatic intelligence signaling that the energetic exchange is inappropriate for you at that moment. And frankly, if anyone in a spiritual space attempts to pressure or shame you for declining, that is an immediate indicator that they lack the necessary reverence for the practice.
They shouldn't be serving it in the first place.
Absolutely not.
That transition from jungle ritual to modern application brings up a fascinating anthropological collision. For you listening who might want to engage with this practice respectfully, perhaps in your own home, we have to look at the toolkit of the modern, quote-unquote, urban shaman.
Yes, the logistics of it.
Because taking an organic, hand-pounded jungle powder and managing it in a climate-controlled Western environment requires some specific adaptations.
It absolutely does, starting with how you store it.
Right.
In the Amazon, humidity is a constant factor, and organic plant matter will inevitably spoil if left exposed. So for the modern practitioner, the source advises storing rapé in small glass test tubes with secure screw tops.
And I was wondering, when I read that, why would you just upcycle a small plastic container or an old water bottle?
Well, plastic can leach chemicals over time, degrading the plant matter.
Ah,
But more importantly, the source mentions the avalanche effect.
the avalanche effect, yes.
If you use a container with a standard narrow neck and you try to gently tap a small dose into the palm of your hand, the powder frequently clumps and then suddenly pours out in a massive, unusable pile.
Right, you just dump half your supply by accident.
Exactly. Test tubes offer the precise control needed for dosing.
Furthermore, managing moisture is paramount. If the powder is exposed to a damp environment, it will rapidly cultivate mold.
Which is very dangerous.
The text specifically warns practitioners to smell their medicine. If it develops a sharp, acrid odor, it is compromised. Because introducing mold spores into your sinus cavity completely subverts the medicinal purpose and introduces real physical harm.
That moisture issue also explains the challenge of maintaining the applicators. The tepi and the karipi are usually made of bamboo.
Right, which is basically wood.
It's highly porous, so if you are constantly blowing warm, moisture-heavy breath and dry plant powder through a porous wooden tube, the internal buildup must be a breeding ground for bacteria.
How did the indigenous tribes handle that?
Historically, within a tribal community, passing a single tepi around a circle is a communal bonding act. They believe the inherent power of the medicine naturally prevents the spread of sickness.
But translating that to a modern Western context, where we understand germ theory and navigate diverse pathogen pools, requires adaptation.
Yes, cleaning these tools is delicate work. Using a cotton swab with alcohol or hydrogen peroxide can disinfect the interior. But harsh liquid chemicals can dry out the bamboo, causing it to splinter, or dissolve the resin holding the joints together.
You have to be careful.
Some practitioners use a lighter's flame to briefly sterilize the ends, but this risks scorching and blackening the instrument.
It's remarkably similar to the care required for a fine musical instrument.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
You wouldn't leave a wooden Stradivarius violin out in a damp basement, nor would you soak it in bleach. The care of the tool is an extension of the respect for the practice. And speaking of the tools, I found the sizing of the karipe super fascinating. Since it connects your own mouth to your own nose,
Yeah.
it physically has to match your distinct facial geometry.
Right, everyone's face is different.
If the angular length is wrong, the air escapes, and you don't get the proper pressure. The guide notes you might literally have to take a saw to the ends of a bamboo karipe to custom fit it perfectly to your face.
That customization is the literal alignment of the practitioner with the tool.
Yeah.
And once you have your aligned tool and your properly stored medicine, the question of dosage arises. For anyone engaging with this outside of a guided ceremonial context, the cardinal rule is to begin with the smallest effective amount.
Which is how much?
A volume roughly the size of a dime placed in the palm of the hand is the recommended threshold, because once that powder is propelled into the sinuses, it cannot be undone.
There is no going back.
None. You are committed to the physiological cascade that follows.
Which means you must be deliberate. It isn't a quick hit of caffeine you take while scrolling on your phone. You set an intention. You dedicate the moment. You treat it as a prayer.
All of these practical steps, the careful storage in glass, the meticulous cleaning of the porous bamboo, the custom fitting of the applicator, the deliberate dosing, they collectively form what practitioners refer to as being in right relationship with the medicine.
Right. Relationship. I love that.
It is an ongoing dialogue of respect. And an essential part of that relationship is recognizing that rapé is ephemeral. It possesses a shelf life.
It goes bad over time.
Over time, it oxidizes and loses its potency. The indigenous philosophy suggests that hoarding the medicine out of scarcity disrespects its purpose.
Yeah.
It is meant to be used, to cycle through, not to be locked away in a drawer somewhere.
When we pull back and look at the vast expanse of what we've covered today, it is truly staggering.
It's a lot to take in.
We began by examining tobacco, a plant that modern global society views purely through the lens of taxation, addiction, and illness. And through the lens of these sources, we've witnessed an entirely different reality.
We really have. We have observed how mapacho, when cultivated, prepared through the arduous alchemy of the feitio, and administered with deep reverence, transforms from a toxic vice into a profoundly sacred sacrament.
It's a medicine that strips away mental fog. It demands physical courage to endure the limpeza and acute energetic discernment to navigate the unseen spaces it opens.
But the true value of this deep dive isn't just learning trivia about an Amazonian ritual.
No.
If we bring the focus entirely back to you, the listener, even if you never in your life lay eyes on a bamboo pipe or attempt to insufflate a jumble powder, the philosophical framework embedded in this tradition offers incredibly practical tools for navigating modern life.
Like what?
Well, consider the implications of intentionality. In the Western world, we consume constantly and unconsciously. Media, food, stimulants.
Endlessly scrolling and snacking.
Exactly. The Reipei tradition asks, what changes when you set a clear, conscious intention before you consume anything?
Oh, that's powerful.
Furthermore, it offers a masterclass in energetic sovereignty. Learning to trust your somatic intuition, recognizing when a person or a situation feels energetically misaligned, and possessing the confidence to say no, regardless of societal pressure or politeness.
Because polite can get you in trouble.
Right. These are not mystical concepts. They are vital skills for emotional and psychological survival.
It fundamentally challenges the binary reductionist way we are taught to view the world. We label things as entirely broken or entirely fixed, as pure poison or pure cure. But the natural world and our relationship to it is infinitely more complex.
It depends entirely on context, respect, and the spirit with which we engage.
It compels us to look closer at the things we have carelessly discarded or commodified, to see the potential that we may have stripped away in our rush toward modern convenience. Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to carry forward today. We have just explored how a plant as culturally demonized as tobacco actually harbors profound, ancient healing capabilities when it is approached with deep reverence and ritual context.
It really makes you think.
So look around your own environment. What other harmful modern vices, or perhaps even the resilient pesky weeds aggressively growing through the cracks in your own driveway, might actually be hidden, powerful medicines?
A great question.
Perhaps the cures to our modern ailments are already growing right beneath our feet, and we have simply forgotten the ancient language required to listen to them.